It was a crisp autumn morning in New York City, the kind where the city buzzed with energy, and the studios of CBS mornings were alive with the hum of production. Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, strode onto the set with his signature easy confidence, dressed in a sharp navy suit that complemented his ginger beard and thoughtful eyes. He was there to promote his latest project, a documentary series on mental health and resilience, drawing from his own experiences in the royal family and beyond. The audience erupted in applause as he took his seat opposite Gayle King, the seasoned host known for her warm yet probing interviews. Little did anyone know, this segment would spiral into one of the most explosive confrontations in morning TV history. Gayle smiled broadly, her voice smooth as silk. "Prince Harry, welcome back to CBS Mornings. It's always a pleasure to have you here. Your new documentary sounds incredibly personal, sharing stories of vulnerability and strength. What inspired this now?" Harry leaned forward, his British accent warm and engaging. "Thank you, Gayle. It's about breaking the silence around mental health, especially for those in the public eye. I've learned that sharing our struggles can help others feel less alone." The audience murmured approvingly, a few nods rippling through the crowd. Co-host Nate Burleson, sitting nearby, chimed in with a grin. "That's powerful, man. We need more of that in the world." The atmosphere felt light, collaborative, like a conversation among friends. But as the cameras rolled, Gayle's expression shifted subtly, her eyes narrowing just a fraction. She adjusted her notes, and the first hint of tension crept in. "You've been very open about your own mental health journey, Harry, therapy, stepping back from royal duties. But some critics say it's all a bit performative. Like, is this just another way to stay in the spotlight after leaving the monarchy?" Gayle's tone was casual, but the words landed like a subtle jab. Harry paused, his smile fading slightly. He chuckled lightly, trying to keep it diplomatic. "Well, Gayle, vulnerability isn't performance, it's human. I've shared my story to help others, not for headlines." The audience shifted uncomfortably, a low whisper spreading. Nate glanced between them, his brow furrowing as if sensing the shift. But Gayle pressed on, her voice gaining an edge. "Fair enough. But let's talk about the royal family. In your book and now this doc, you've accused them of being unsupportive, even toxic. Don't you think that's hypocritical? You left, built a life in California with millions from deals like Netflix, while your family deals with the fallout back home." Harry's jaw tightened, his hands clasping together in his lap. "Gayle, with respect, my experiences are my own. I've spoken out because silence perpetuates harm. It's not about blame, it's about healing." The studio fell into a hushed silence, the only sounds the faint whir of cameras and the rustle of audience members adjusting in their seats. Nate tried to interject. "Hey, let's pivot to the positive impact of the documentary." But Gayle waved him off gently, her focus locked on Harry. What happened next would leave the entire studio, and soon the world, stunned. But before we dive deeper, tell me in the comments, have you ever felt judged for sharing your mental health story? Hit that like button if Harry's openness resonates with you. As the interview continued, Gayle leaned in closer, her questions turning sharper, like a scalpel probing for weakness. "Harry, you've positioned yourself as an advocate for privacy, yet you're constantly in the media, interviews, books, documentaries. Isn't that a contradiction? And what about Meghan? Critics say your family narrative paints her as the victim, but some see it as throwing the royals under the bus for personal gain." Harry's eyes flashed with a mix of frustration and resolve. He took a deep breath, his voice steady but laced with emotion. "Privacy isn't about hiding, it's about boundaries. We've shared what we have to protect our family and highlight issues that matter. Accusing us of personal gain ignores the real struggles we've faced: racism, intrusion, loss." A gasp echoed from the audience, one woman covering her mouth in shock. Producers in the control room exchanged panicked glances, their headsets buzzing with urgent whispers. "Should we cut to commercial?" one asked, but the director shook his head. No, this was gold for ratings. Nate shifted awkwardly, attempting to lighten the mood with a half-joke. "Whoa, this is getting real. Harry, your doc features stories from everyday people. Maybe we can hear about one. It was a valiant effort, but Gayle ignored it, her smile now more of a challenge. Harry, let's be honest, she said, her tone dripping with sarcasm. You've monetized your royal exit. Is this advocacy or just another brand? And that Oprah interview, spilling family secrets on global TV. Doesn't that make you the biggest invader of privacy in your own story? The prince's face hardened, his knuckles widening as he gripped the armrest. The air in the studio thickened, every eye glued to the unfolding drama. A few audience members pulled out their phones, discreetly recording despite the no filming signs. Security hovered at the edges, sensing the brewing storm. But just as Harry opened his mouth to respond, Gayle dropped a bombshell that no one saw coming, a direct reference to a recent tabloid rumor about his strained relationship with King Charles. And what about the reports that your father wants reconciliation, but you're the one blocking it? Is this all just unresolved daddy issues playing out in public? The studio froze. Harry's expression turned to one of raw hurt, his voice trembling for the first time. What he said next would change everything. But hold on, don't go anywhere. This is just heating up. If you're hooked, smash that subscribe button right now so you never miss explosive stories like this. We've got more twists ahead. Harry sat back, composing himself with visible effort. Gayle, that's deeply personal and unfounded. My relationship with my father is complex, but dragging it here for spectacle? That's crossing a line. The audience erupted in a mix of murmurs, some supportive claps for Harry, others whispering in agreement with Gayle's boldness. Nate finally jumped in more forcefully. All right, folks, let's take a breath. This is important dialogue, but... His words were drowned out as Gayle doubled down. Unfounded? Harry, you've made it public yourself in your book. If you're going to air dirty laundry, expect questions. Or is the prince above accountability? Harry's eyes met hers, a storm brewing behind his calm facade. He glanced at the audience, then back at the camera, as if addressing the world. Accountability goes both ways. I've owned my part, but this, twisting pain for entertainment, that's not journalism, that's exploitation. A tear glistened in one audience member's eye, while another nodded vigorously. The producers were in full panic mode now, signaling for a commercial break, but the tension was electric. Nate tried humor to defuse. Man, if this were a royal court, we'd all be in the dungeon by now. A few nervous laughs broke the silence, humanizing the moment amid the drama. As the segment teetered on the edge, Harry stood slowly, his movement deliberate. The camera zoomed in, capturing every nuance, the slight tremble in his hand, the resolute set of his shoulders. I came here to talk about hope and healing, he said, his voice gaining strength. Not to be ambushed. Gayle's face paled slightly, realizing she might have pushed too far. But she wasn't backing down. Harry, sit down, we're just having a conversation. What Harry did next shocked everyone in the room and sent social media into a frenzy. But before we reveal that explosive climax, quick question for you. Would you walk out of an interview like this? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you're not subscribed yet, do it now. We've got 5 minutes of pure drama coming up, and you won't want to miss the fallout. The CBS Morning studio was a pressure cooker, the air thick with anticipation as Prince Harry stood, his navy suit slightly creased from the intensity of the moment. Gayle King's challenge. Harry, sit down, we're just having a conversation, hung in the air like a dare. The audience held its breath, some leaning forward, others clutching their phones, capturing every second of the unfolding drama. Nate Burleson's attempt at humor had fizzled, and now all eyes were on Harry. The cameras swiveled, their faint hum the only sound in the stunned silence. Producers in the control room were frantic, headsets crackling with commands, but no one dared cut to commercial, not now, not when the moment was teetering on the edge of television history. Harry's gaze swept the room, locking briefly with an audience member whose wide eyes mirrored the shock rippling through the crowd. He turned back to Gayle, his voice low but resolute. This isn't a conversation, Gayle. It's an interrogation. I came here to talk about mental health, about helping people. not to be dissected for ratings. A murmur of agreement rippled through parts of the audience, while others sat frozen, unsure whether to clap or stay silent. Gayle's smile faltered, but she leaned forward undeterred. Harry, you've put yourself in the public eye. If you're going to share your story, you can't pick and choose what people ask about. That's not how it works. The prince's hands clenched briefly at his sides, a flicker of raw emotion crossing his face, anger, yes, but also a deep well of hurt. He took a step toward the edge of the set, and for a moment, it seemed he might walk off. The tension was unbearable, like a string pulled taut, ready to snap. Nate jumped in, his voice urgent. Okay, let's talk about the documentary's impact. Harry, you've got stories in there from veterans, right? That's close to your heart. But Gayle wasn't ready to let go. Hold on, Nate. Harry, you talk about healing, but you've been accused of stirring division, especially with your family. That Oprah interview, the book, now this documentary. Are you healing or are you settling scores? The audience gasped, a collective intake of breath that echoed through the studio. A woman in the front row whispered to her friend. She didn't just say that. Security guards at the back exchanged glances, inching closer to the stage. The control room was chaos now, with one producer hissing, "She's going too far," while another countered, "This is viral gold, keep rolling." Harry's eyes darkened, his voice dropping to a dangerous calm. Settling scores? Gayle, I've lost family, privacy, and safety to speak truths that needed to be heard. You want to talk about division? How about the media tearing into my wife's life, her heritage, her mental health? That's not me settling scores, that's me fighting for what's right. The studio erupted in a mix of applause and stunned silence. A young man in the audience started clapping, and soon half the room joined in, while others sat rigid, unsure whose side to take. Nate nodded slowly, visibly impressed by Harry's conviction, but Gayle pressed on, her tone now almost defiant. Fighting for what's right, or building a brand? Some say you're using Meghan's struggles to sell this narrative of victimhood. That was the moment the dam broke. Harry's face flushed, his composure cracking for the first time. He stepped closer to Gayle's desk, his voice trembling with barely contained fury. You don't get to say that. You don't get to trivialize what we've been through. This isn't a brand, it's our life. The audience was electric now, some shouting encouragement. You tell her, Harry! While others recorded feverishly, their phones shaking in their hands. The cameras zoomed in, capturing the sweat on Gayle's brow, the fire in Harry's eyes. But what happened next would send shockwaves across the internet. Before we get there, quick question. Would you stand up to a host like this, or walk away? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you're loving this drama, hit that subscribe button. We're just 5 minutes away from a moment you won't believe. Harry took a deep breath, visibly steadying himself. He glanced at the audience, then directly into the nearest camera, as if speaking to the world. I came here to talk about hope, he said, his voice raw but powerful. About how we can all support each other through pain. But this, he gestured to Gayle's desk. This is why people stay silent. Because speaking up gets you attacked, mocked, twisted. Gayle opened her mouth to respond, but Harry raised a hand, cutting her off, a gesture so commanding it silenced the room. I'm done, he said simply. I'm not here to be your punching bag. With that, he unclipped his microphone, dropped it on the chair, and began walking toward the exit. The studio was a frozen tableau. Nate's jaw dropped, Gayle's eyes widened, and the audience erupted into a chaotic mix of cheers, gasps, and whispers. Security moved to intercept, but Harry waved them off, his stride purposeful. The cameras followed, capturing the swish of his suit jacket, the clack of his shoes on the polished floor. A producer's voice crackled through the control room. Follow him! Don't lose the shot! As Harry reached the edge of the set, he paused, turning back one last time. The audience leaned forward, hanging on his every word. This isn't about me, Harry said, his voice steady now, carrying a quiet dignity. It's about every person who's been shamed for their struggles. Mental health isn't a punchline. It's a lifeline. And I won't let anyone, royal or not, be bullied into silence. The room exploded in applause, even from those who'd been skeptical moments before. A woman in the back wiped tears from her eyes while a man shouted, "Respect!" Gayle sat motionless, her notes forgotten, as Nate finally found his voice. "Wow, Harry, that's powerful. We hear you, man." But Harry was already gone, disappearing through the studio doors. The monitors flickered to a wide shot, showing the stunned faces in the audience, the empty chair, the microphone lying abandoned. Social media was already lighting up, clips of the exchange spreading like wildfire, hashtags like #HarryWalksOut and #MentalHealthMatters trending within minutes. As the show cut to commercial, the producers scrambled to regroup, while Gayle forced a smile, muttering, "Well, that was unexpected." Nate shook his head, half laughing. "Understatement of the year, Gayle." The moment was raw, real, and utterly unforgettable, but the fallout was just beginning. Don't go anywhere, this story's not over yet. Subscribe now to catch the epic conclusion, and tell us in the comments, was Harry right to walk out, or should he have stayed? Let's get that discussion going. The aftermath was seismic. By the next morning, news outlets from CNN to BBC were dissecting the confrontation. Some praised Harry's courage, calling it a stand for mental health advocacy. Others accused him of dodging tough questions. X was ablaze with reactions, posts ranging from, "Prince Harry just owned Gayle King," to, "She was just doing her job." The clip of Harry's final speech racked up millions of views, with influencers and everyday users alike debating who was in the right. For Harry, the moment solidified his image as a man unafraid to stand up for his principles, even at the cost of public scrutiny. For Gayle, it was a rare misstep, with some viewers questioning whether her pursuit of headlines had crossed into cruelty. CBS Mornings issued a statement about spirited discussions, but stopped short of an apology. The documentary Harry was promoting saw a surge in interest, proving that even in conflict, his message resonated. So, what do you think? Was Harry's walkout a powerful statement, or did he overreact? Should Gayle have pushed so hard? Drop your thoughts in the comments, share this story, and subscribe for more moments that spark real conversations. This is one TV clash we'll be talking about for years. Don't miss what's next. The CBS Morning studio was a tinderbox after Prince Harry's exit, his words. "Mental health isn't a punchline. It's a lifeline," hanging heavy. The audience was split, some cheered, others sat stunned. Gayle King, gripping her notes, forced a smile, while Nate Burleson muttered, "That just happened." Cameras caught the chaos. Harry's abandoned mic, security hovering, producers in a frenzy. This was no interview. It was a showdown for the ages. As commercials hit, X exploded. Clips of Harry's walkout went viral, #HarrySpeaksOut trending globally. A leaked audio from the control room surfaced. "Gayle, you went nuclear," a producer snapped. Was it a ratings ploy? The internet buzzed with theories. What really went down behind the scenes? Drop your take in the comments. Back on air, Gayle pivoted. "That was intense. Let's talk Harry's documentary, important stuff." Her voice wavered. Nate added, "His lifeline comment? That's real." The audience clapped weakly, still reeling. Harry's team posted on X. "Today shows why mental health matters. We need care, not attacks." Fans roared, but critics sneered. He dodged tough questions. The fallout was wild. CNN and BBC dissected the clash. Harry's resilient hearts surged 300% in streams. His speech inspired thousands, with #MentalHealthIsALifeline trending. Gayle took heat. Some called her bold, others cruel. A meme captioned her, "Interview or roast?" Nate's X post, "Words matter. Let's talk with heart." Earned love. Would you have walked out like Harry? Comment below and subscribe for more. Weeks later, the dust settled. Harry's documentary sparked global mental health talks. Gayle addressed it. Interviews get heated. I respect Harry's passion. Some saw grace, others deflection. Harry visited charities, focusing on impact. The clash became a mirror. Words can heal or hurt, and standing up matters. So, who was right, Harry or Gayle? Share your thoughts, hit subscribe, and let's keep the conversation alive.